All right guys, behind me is my 1966 Ford Mustang Fastback. Now, I purchased this car back at the end of November, early December last year, and it's been a full rebuild process from top to bottom to get this thing to where it is now. So I'm gonna show you the last couple months, all the bodywork and paint, and then we're gonna recap, you know, this whole last year, getting it to where it is now. Now, keep in mind, this is just a project of mine. I was not able to work every day on this thing. This was nights and weekends, early mornings, late nights, getting this thing to where it sits. A lot of individual effort from the guys here at SOS Customs. A lot of these guys chose to help me when they could be spending time with their family or be at home relaxing or going out and partying, whatever. They chose to help me. So a really special thank you to the guys here at SOS Customs. But here we are. Without further ado, let's get into today's video. So now that we're ready to go ahead and start blocking these things out, there's gonna be a couple things that we're gonna need right away. First off, safety first. Make sure you guys have your dust mask. There's all different types of dust masks you could be using. You can use painter's mask. You can use the bodyman mask, which usually have the pink filters. For today, because we're just gonna be a little bit of a light blocking, I'm just gonna go ahead and use one of these KN95s. Go ahead and throw that on right there. The next thing that you're gonna need is obviously a block. There's all different types of blocks. For this car, we're gonna be using mainly long blocks, short blocks, and a roll block, which I'll show you shortly. So I got a brand new guide coat right here. We're gonna go ahead and apply it. If you don't have any guide coat at home, you could also use spray can. So because I have a nice set of wheels on here, I'm gonna go ahead and use a little wheel cover to protect my investments, and then we're gonna go ahead and apply our guide coat. Again, if you don't have access to guide coat, you don't have any guide coat on hand, you can also use a little bit of spray can. Just dust that on there right over. This is what your guide coat should kind of look like. Kind of full coverage, very thorough. You don't want to get it too dark in too many spots, but this is perfectly fine if you don't have access to a dry guide coat. If you do have access to a guide coat, you definitely want to go ahead and apply it very thoroughly over the surface that you are going to be blocking. As you can see, it's very similar, but this is a little bit more thorough. And you don't have to really wait for this to dry like the paint, you know? So what I'm gonna go ahead and start off with this Durablock. Gonna go ahead and put some 150. Now, keep in mind when you're doing body work and stuff like that, restoration, or you're doing your own projects at home, is you don't always get the car ready on the first coat of primer. Sometimes you have to go back and find imperfections. Now that you got your guide coat on the car, we're gonna go ahead and throw some 150 on the long block or medium block, I would say. Make sure we got our mask on for protection and start blocking away. A couple key tips when you're blocking is you don't really want to push too hard down. You want to let the block and the sandpaper do all the work. You're just guiding it. So you want to go diagonal, just like this and like that. Never side to side or up and down, just straight diagonally. I'm gonna go ahead and show you right now. All right, after just blocking for a couple minutes, we've already kind of started to expose some of these problem areas where you can still kind of see a little bit of the guide coat. Now that's gonna be a wave, so you gotta make sure that you block that out completely and either Sometimes you have to add a little bit of metalwork, Bondo, or just a little bit more primer to block it out. The good thing is that we still haven't hit metal or anything like that, so we still got plenty of material to work with. More than likely, this thing will need another couple passes of primer, but we won't know that until we're done with the whole entire blocking process. It may be just some small areas, making sure all the alignment is properly done and stuff like that. So we're gonna keep going throughout this thing, but I hope you guys are enjoying this, kind of seeing what it takes to do a paint job. So finally this thing has been fully primed and we're starting the blocking process. What that entails is kind of like what we started in the beginning of the video, putting a guide coat down. We're blocking it with the block, hard block and soft block depending on the surface. We're doing a 220, a 320, leaving it at 400 and 400 wet, 600 wet. And after it's pretty much all prepped out, we don't find any imperfections on this thing, any dings, dents, or waves, then we're gonna go ahead and start the full teardown process. Now what that's gonna entail is disassembling the fenders, the doors, trunk, and the glass. We're gonna pretty much leave the whole roof, quarter panel, and the trunk jamb, rear body panel, all that. So pretty much we're gonna paint all that is here, right? All this. The jambs for the trunk, the jambs for the doors, and the jambs for the hood and fenders will all get shot separately, and all those panels will get shot separately as well. Now typically I don't recommend doing this when you're doing some crazy metallics, candy, or pearl paint jobs, but because this is going to be a solid color that's a clue to the color, then we should be fine. We're going to mix 1 huge gallon of paint, and that should be enough after it's reduced to paint the whole car with the same color. We're using the same process. We should be fine. We should get even color all the way through. So I pretty much hit everything that I could myself. I'm gonna have the guys start blocking out the rest. I'm gonna go ahead and keep going on the door jambs. So what I'm doing with the door jambs is I'm hitting it with some 220 continuous to get off all the little overspray and just get everything ready to go ahead and follow it up with a 320 400, and that should leave it pretty much ready for sealer, base coat, and clear coat. Fastback has been fully blocked out already. Went ahead and used a 220. The next thing is going to hit it up with some 320 and then finish it off in 400 wet. Once we finish up with the wet sanding, we'll go ahead and start taking everything apart and getting ready for paint. The Mustang is pretty much almost ready. We're just gonna go ahead and finish up some of these jams right here, getting them all nice and clean, all nice and prepped. We got G and A Tweezy on the jams real quick, and these things are coming up nicely. You guys saw me sanding on these things last on Saturday. Here we are on Monday. We are going to go ahead and get these jams finished and get this thing ready for paint. Alright, this thing is finally almost painted. It's been a lot of work, from the initial collision repair to the bodywork restoration to now the D-trim and the final prep. This thing is, body's pretty much ready. It's already been wet sanded and everything like that. Right now what we are doing, I got the homies G and H one over here with the prep work, prepping all the jam out. We're probably gonna shoot a little bit of primer to just kind of see what it looked like. Once it's primer, we'll wet sand it and just prep the underside of this inside of the aprons and prep those out, and prep out this cowl and the roof. Pretty much gonna shoot the whole body at that point. At that point, once everything is shot there, we'll go ahead and shoot like the hood, the trunk, the doors, the fenders. All that is gonna be shot separately, and we're gonna talk about color here next as well, because I think I have the color almost dialed in. We're like pretty close to it, but this is what it is, guys. This is a lot of work, months of work, finally coming to its conclusion. Hinges right here. What we did to, you know, we spent all that time aligning like doors and stuff like that. So what we do is we kind of give ourselves these little cheat marks right there. And what that does is when we go ahead and install hinges back on, we're gonna have these guides and we stick like a little pin in there. And that pin, when that pin is aligned on both sides, that means that this is aligned, and that's when we will tighten this up. Because there's so much play on how you align them, these holes that we make are our guides. So we know that it's gonna be 100% aligned once we remove them and once we take them, put them on as well. So the color that we went with is Porsche Chalk White. This is everything that comes in the paints, and this is the color right now. Now, I got a lot of shit on this color here at the shop because everyone says, man, it just looks just like primer. And maybe it does a little bit, but once it's all assembled and everything's together and we have the color on the car and everything's done with a red interior, I think it's gonna look great. All right, guys, we're in the booth with Richard. Finally, spray day. I'm so excited. Let's commence the paint job. Alright guys, so we got the base down. It's looking really good. I know you probably can't really tell the difference between the base coat and the sealer, but I can. That's because I'm in person and stuff, but maybe once it's clear coated and we have it outside, maybe you'll be able to see it. But I'm really happy. The body looks great. The prep work looks phenomenal. Everything is looking good, and I can't believe we're minutes away from putting our clear coat and having this portion of the vehicle done. It's been such a long time coming. I've been working on this car since we got it back at the end of November, and here it is to get its freaking base coat down and have it ready for the clear. It just makes it's just surreal. And here it is, guys. Let's get some clear coat on this. Guys, this thing has finally been painted and I'm so excited to show you guys. It looks so amazing. Richard, you did it once again, brother. This thing looks amazing. It literally laid out like glass. I'm gonna turn this thing around and show you guys what it looks like. Yeah, buddy. Freaking glass, man. This thing came out so good. So freaking clean. There's no paint lines in the jam. This thing's just gonna look so freaking good, man. Every square little inch of this thing has been painted. All the cowl, all the jam, the aprons, everything has been painted. Alright guys, the base has been laid down. We're gonna get ready to shoot some clear coat on it. I'm gonna let everything dry off for about 15 minutes. From there, we're gonna go ahead and get the clear mixed up. We're gonna go ahead and use a slow reducer because I'm gonna go ahead and let this sit all weekend. And the next step is to tack cloth everything off, make sure there's no dirt, dust, and anything on any of the panels. From there, we're gonna go ahead and put about 2 wet coats on everything. Now, that is because I do not plan on polishing underneath the hood of the trunk or any of these small pieces as well. I'm gonna make sure to leave it as wet as possible. We're using a thick restoration style clear, so it's very thick. It's only a 2-coat clear. Any more than that, then it's gonna take an extremely long amount of time to dry because the milk buildup with these 2 coats is gonna be super wet. Now that everything is drying off, I got a tack cloth, and right before we shoot the clear, I'm just gonna go ahead and kind of go over all the panels, make sure if there's any lint or any type of debris. This tack cloth is very tacky, it's gonna go ahead and pick up any of that stuff. So I'm gonna go ahead and hit all the panels. All right, now we're gonna go ahead and mix up some clear. This clear is a 2-to-1 clear. So kind of same thing, we're gonna mix about 5 parts. So we're gonna, right where that 5 is, the next line is gonna be the hardener, and then we're gonna add a little bit of reducer to that. Alright guys, everything has been fully cured. It's been about 2 days. I shot this Saturday. Here we are on Monday morning, and I got a little bit of a tear, if you guys can see that. It's crying because it wants to be put on the car already. But the rest of the parts came out pretty good. I'm a little rusty, I gotta say. Richard has taken over all the painting for a long time, but I gotta say, I still got it. Looks clean, look at that. Sheesh, fucking wet, eh? So the reason why I wanted to shoot this, because I really want to try to give you guys a finished video, the whole car put together. And in order for me to do that, all this extra stuff has to get painted too. So today, I'm gonna flip the hood and the trunk over, prep those out, and then we'll be able to paint the hood, the trunk, driver passenger door, driver passenger fender, gravel guard, and the bumper filler. And that's it for paint, guys. After everything is painted, we will finally be able to assemble, but keep in mind everything has to dry. So all this getting painted helps, you know, obviously with that cure time, and it'll help us get one step closer to get the thing all together. So without further ado, let's get into this final prep and let's get these final pieces painted. All right guys, everything is in the booth now. We got the hood, doors, trunk, hinges, gravel guard. I don't know how I'm gonna even get to that one. That's gonna be a little bit of a tricky issue. We got the fenders, we got the little dick for the hood, and then we got a little catch for the hood. So we got a room full of parts. It's gonna be a little tricky in here. I wish we had a bigger booth, and this was gonna get a little tricky, so I might have to kind of adjust it and stuff like that because we're very tight space here. But everything is in here. We're gonna go ahead and start blowing everything off, hit everything with the tack rack, and get some sealer down right now. All right, SOS fam, I just laid down the first coat of sealer. Everything is now uniform. I'm gonna go ahead and show you what everything's kind of looking like. I found a couple small pinholes that I'm gonna go ahead and fill. That's why you always lay down a sealer coat, because it's kind of like a helper coat. Not only does it make the paint uniform and kind of helps you kind of fill in any little imperfection, but it is a good way without wasting your actual paint to kind of really see what it's gonna look like. And I found a couple panels with like a couple little pinholes. They're very minor, but we're trying to get the best paint job we possibly can here. So I'm gonna go ahead and fill those right now, prep them out, put a little bit more sealer on those bad areas, and then we'll be ready for something. Everything has been laying out smooth. It really helps that the base is very similar to the sealer, because coverage is really good. With one coat I could pretty much get everything covered, and then that second coat was gonna kind of give us a nice fill coat. Everything is laying down smooth. This was one of the problem areas, and see if you can really see it on camera. I put a little bit more sealer on there. You can't really see it. Oh, you see that little, I don't know if you can see it, guys, but there's a little, you can't really see it on camera, but trust me, there's a little, there it is, little imperfection there. Now the base may cover that, but over time it can kind of suck through. So I'm just gonna put a little bit of combi putty on that, feather that out, and then there was another panel somewhere, oh, right here. Got a little bit of prep that didn't get done right here. It's uneven, some filler edge, like a filler edge. So that needs to be, go ahead and sanded. I also found one small little edge like that too right here. So right now, like, we gotta take care of all this stuff, because if you don't, it's gonna show in the paints, and after it's painted, you can't do anything about it. So we're gonna go take care of that right now, and then go get some base on this as well. Alright guys, I just laid down my first coat of base. It's pretty hot today, but we got everything covered with 1 cup. Going over everything, all the panels, everything's starting to look good. I'm going to go ahead and show you with some of this base. I painted myself. Now here is our first coat. Painting this color with the same, almost the same color sealer is very tricky, because it's hard to make sure that you covered everything. But it is a different color, so you can see like some lighter grays. Here's one area where we covered some pinholes, and I didn't like how the texture was, so I went ahead and hit it with some 800. But you can see right there, it kind of burned through, and you can see there's the difference right there. It's definitely a little bit more, I don't know, browner, more creamier, and that's like a super light gray. So I went ahead and hit it with 800. The rest of the panel came out good. Went ahead and hit the hood and the trunk with 800 as well, because I want these to be extra flat. Everything else is actually looking really good. The base on the fender laid out really great. That's only 1 coat. And same thing with this other fender. Everything's looking really good. I'm tempted to hit everything with 800 you know, and hit it with, you know, 1 more coat, but you know, I don't want the coverage of the base to be clear. These came out super nice, so I'm not gonna mess with it. I just did those 2 panels. But what we'll do next is hit everything with a tack cloth and make sure everything's clean, and go ahead and lay our second coat of base. Second coat is on. Got everything covered. Just got the hood with the whole other coats, and I'll show you the rest of the parts right before we shoot our clear coat. The color is looking real nice and uniform. I just shot, these were the last pieces that I painted, so they're still a little glossy. We wanted to go ahead and full on mattes, but you guys can see that the sheen looks really nice and clean. Got all these back sections all nice and base coated, and the base is really nice and uniform. That's really what we're looking for. Got all these areas, all the jams and stuff like that, and everything so far looks to be nice and clean, right? Got the hood starting to tack off real nice now. We'll go ahead and let everything dry. I want to say probably maybe another 10 minutes. Start tacking it off, make sure everything's nice and clean, or blowing it off. I mean, because it looks like we probably won't need to tack it because everything is real nice and smooth, but you never know. Want to make sure that there's no dirt or imperfections. I had a issue over here that we went ahead and cleaned up. we got our first coat on most of all the panels. Pretty much ran out of clear coat on the passenger side, driver's side fender, but everything else is looking good. Let me show you what a first coat looks like. All right guys, I got my first coat of clear over almost everything except for the driver's side fender, but here's the front bumper filler and the lower gravel guards. First coat on there, first coat on the driver door, the trunk. Nice uniform coat on that first coat. This second coat though is gonna be real nice and wet, but everything looks real nice and good over here. Nothing too crazy. I did, however, manage to get a run on the first coat. Come on, Oscar. Slipping. I'm getting rusty, guys. Richard's usually the one to spray everything, but this is the first coat on the other fender and we're looking good. So right now I'm gonna go ahead and start shooting the rest of the clear on that. Richard went ahead and mixed it up for me. We're gonna go ahead and start shooting that. Guys, so here it is. Not a lot of sun out in this specific area, but I really want you guys' opinion on what the paint color came out like. Now again, this is a Porsche chalk white, even though it's more of a grayish tone. With the red interior, I feel like this is going to be a really nice combo. We're going to go ahead and lower the back just a little bit more just to get that nice ride height, kind of like the front over there. And other than that, there's not going to be a whole lot more that's going to be left to do on this thing, but we're almost there, guys. I'm gonna try this thing out, try to get this thing in the sunlight somewhere, and see what you guys really think of the overall look. All right guys, and that's gonna wrap up the Mustang paint series right now. Next up, we got some interior going in and the final assembly, followed by the polish. I'm very excited because once this thing is ready, I'm gonna go ahead and take this thing to a Cars and Coffee, and hopefully any of you guys that watched the video can come and join me and take a look at this thing, because it's literally a whole different car. I'm so happy with how it's coming out, and I can't wait for you guys to see it all done. So again, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope that I didn't leave you guys behind too far on this project. I know it hasn't been in any of the videos for a long time, but at least, hey, we got this thing done. So thank you guys again. Here at SOS Customs, we got you covered. Peace.